What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is a series where I cover all of the stats of every one of the weapons in CoD WW2. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the brand new LMG, and this is the VMG 1927. Now in real life, the VMG is a German LMG that's chambered in 8mm Mauser, and it had a rate of fire of approximately 450 rounds per minute. In CoD WW2, we get a damage profile of 40-30, meaning it's always going to be a 3 to 4 shot kill, although just like with all of the other LMGs in the game, good luck finding a line of sight long enough to drop off to that 4-shot kill range. It simply isn't going to happen. So realistically, the VMG will be a 3-shot kill at any range you'll be able to find in this game. Our rate of fire is a little bit faster than the Lewis at 545 rounds per minute, and with rapid fire you can bump that all the way up to 600 rounds per minute, which is very fast for a 3-shot kill gun. Our statistical minimum time to kill in the 3-shot kill range, which like I said is every range that you can find in this game realistically, this is going to be 220 milliseconds, which is competitive with SMGs at closer ranges, and then beyond like 25 to 30 meters, there's almost nothing in this game that competes with this in the time to kill department. As for headshots, we get a standard headshot multiplier of 1.1, giving us a headshot damage of 44. This means that headshots really just don't matter with the LMG, so don't even bother with them unless you're going for camo challenges. Moving on to ranges, as I said earlier, you're not going to be able to find a line of sight long enough to drop off into the 4-shot kill range for core game modes, and for hardcore, this gun will always be a 1-shot kill unless you're shooting through cover. For hipfire, we've got pretty standard hipfire for the LMG category, which is to say it's not necessarily great like when you compare it to rifles or SMGs, but when you compare it to something like the Bren or the Stinger, it could be a whole lot worse. This brings us to idle sway, and as you can see here, pretty standard for the LMG category. There's practically no idle sway whatsoever with the LMGs. As for recoil, this is an area where after I saw the stats of this, I was thinking, okay, there's got to be a big downside, maybe it's really inaccurate or something. Turns out that's not the case. This gun is very, very accurate. It's got mainly vertical recoil, but also a very low magnitude of vertical recoil, so it doesn't kick up to the sky or anything. Sometimes it has a tendency to kick the odd bullet to the left, but generally it stays relatively well centered. And overall, while it's not quite as accurate as the Lewis, it is still very accurate and easy to control. Moving on to magazine capacity, we get a standard magazine of 50 rounds with 100 in reserve, which is nothing too special for the LMG category. It's not super low, but at the same time, it's nothing exceptional. With extended mags, we can bump that up to 75 rounds with 200 in reserve, which is definitely helpful, but not necessary in my opinion. And our reload add time is right around average for LMGs, which is to say it is quite slow at 5.17 seconds. As for our aim down sight time, this is very good for an LMG at 300 milliseconds, which is tied with the Lewis. Same thing goes with sprint out time, this is also 300 milliseconds. Our movement speed for the VMG is actually the best in the LMG category at 95%. All of the other LMGs have a 92.5% movement speed, whereas the VMG actually falls in line with the rifle category at 95%. As for our aim down sight strafe speed, this is equal to the rifle category as well as some of the LMGs at 40%, so it is quite good for an LMG. This brings us to the recommended attachments for the VMG. First up, Quick Draw. It's an LMG, and even though it doesn't have a really slow aim down sight time for LMGs, it is still an LMG, and they tend to aim down sight a little bit slow. So with Quick Draw, it helps mitigate that downside a little bit. Also, extended mags. This is one that I really like using with this because 50 rounds, while it is quite a bit, when you consider that really long reload time, it's nice to have that extended up to 75 rounds. It also significantly improves your total ammo count if you're trying to go on a longer streak with it. The only other attachments I tend to use with the VMG would be rapid fire, which is absolutely not necessary with this gun. Like I said earlier, time to kill is excellent, but if you wanted to bump that up, you can always use rapid fire. Steady aim isn't a terrible choice as well, just helps you compete a little bit better in those close quarters situations. And finally, while I feel that the iron sights are great, sometimes you might want to throw a reflex sight on there just so you can be a bit more effective on those longer range maps. So finally, this brings us to a couple great class setups that I have for you guys. First up, we have one with the Armored Division, and this is a specialist setup. So for our attachments on this, we're using Quick Draw, Extended Mags, and Rapid Fire, just so you can absolutely dominate in the time to kill department. Like I said, basic training is going to be specialist here with Scoped as our first perk, Escalation as our second perk so that we don't really have to reload because it's fairly frequent that you'll get a double kill with an entire 75 round magazine. And if you do that with Escalation, it will automatically reload your gun. And finally, for our third perk, we get Lookout, which is just excellent for LMGs. For our secondary, we have a 9mm SAP with extended mags, lethal as a sticky grenade, and tactical as a stun grenade, just like we always tend to use. In my opinion, currently, this is one of the easiest classes to get a V2 rocket with on a wide range of maps. For any map that's not completely dominated by close quarter situations, this class is amazing for going on super long streaks. Moving on to the second class I'm going to be sharing for you guys today. This one is with the Resistance Division, which I sometimes like to use with LMGs because you have Lookout built into this division. Plus, you get the added benefit of having that sixth sense ability if somebody's trying to sneak up on you. It gives you just that little bit of extra time to prepare for them, which sometimes you need with that slower handling of an LMG. And with this, once again, we're using quick draw and extended mags, but I popped on a reflex sight here. This one I've designed a little bit more around those longer range engagement, picking people off at a distance, not really being too aggressive and getting up close and personal if you can avoid it. But of course, this gun can still hold its own in those close quarter situations. Our basic training on this one is going to be scoped, and once again, our secondary, lethal, and tactical are all going to be identical to the previous class. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide. Personally, my thoughts on this gun, I feel it is currently one of the best guns in the game, hands down. In my opinion, it's better than the Lewis. It's either equal to or better than the Lewis in almost every single category that matters, aside from recoil, but the recoil is really not that bad. The Lewis has slightly better recoil, but the VMG is still extremely accurate and easy to control, so it's not that big of a deal. Time to kill wise, there's not much in this game that will compete with this, especially at those somewhat longer ranges. And I'm interested to see what Sledgehammer ends up doing with this over time, if they're going to end up nerfing it at all. I don't really know, but if you guys have the armory credits, I would say absolutely don't miss out on this LMG. Of course, though, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of the VMG 1927? Do you think I'm overhyping it? Do you think it's not quite as good as I say? Or do you agree with me and think that it is one of the more powerful guns in the game? If you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. We are once again all caught up. I've covered every single gun that's in the game. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.